So something Splatoon 3 didn't change up a whole lot was the abilities. We mostly just got them all back, and not much in terms of new abilities outside of Intensify Action Up. I think Splatoon 4 will probably do a lot more with the system. And to start with that discussion, I want to go over what I get most commonly asked, which is what abilities should come back. So today, I'm going to rank them all based on what I want to see happen to each ability. Obviously, there are a few missing here, like Bomb Range Up that got replaced by Sub Power Up, or Cold Blooded, which has been merged into Bomb Defense DX, but for the most part, I think all the abilities that weren't just kind of replaced already are in this list. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can get started with the staples and should come back. I don't have as much to say about these. In fact, I've already laid out all the staples. These are abilities that are standard, stackable, and I really just don't see having any reason to change anytime soon. For the most part, that holds true with should come back, but I'm going to talk about them a little bit more. So let's go through these quickly as well. This starts with comeback. It's been a staple since Splatoon 1 with minimal balance changes that stayed consistently relevant at multiple levels of play. Honestly, the most likely one to come back, it's basically a staple as is. Last ditch effort and opening gambit. I feel the balance changes done in Splatoon 3 have put them in a relatively good spot, and they seem relatively commonly used. I don't see a reason this would be taken out. Ninja Squid. This one's a little bit less likely, but again, I feel has become a pretty big staple in this game. The rework to Splatoon 3 has made it a lot more balanced, and I personally just don't really see them changing it, since I think main exclusives are very important. Object Shredder. It's not as common in Splatoon 3, but I feel like with the change I'm talking about later in this video that I hope happens, that there would be more of a reason to use it in the next game. Haunt is the last of our main exclusive abilities here to quickly cover. Again, I feel like this ability has been refined. Its existence in Splatoon 1, but its reworks have put it in a relatively good spot. It's fine on plenty of weapons, and even in Splatoon 3, I think it works. It might need to be changed though, and I'll get to that in a second. And finally is Intensify Action Up. The only one here that's going to be a stackable ability. I think that Intensify Action is fine. It's a good, healthy effect, even if it doesn't work on every single weapon. Obviously, some just don't have RNG problems, in which it only helps the Squid Roll and Surge. But since I think those mechanics will be a staple, I feel like an ability to enhance them and RNG as a whole are incredibly essential, and they will keep that. Which means everything else in this list is going to be changed to me. So there's actually a tier above staples, and that should be a default effect, and this will be where Stealth Jump goes. To me, I think that super jumping would be a lot more accessible and simple to use if a Stealth Jump effect was applied to it. Maybe you'd have to nerf it a little bit, but it's basically an essential ability on almost every single weapon right now. It feels incredibly good for the game, and I just think that it's been around for so long that it's really important, as well as would help a lot of the other shoe exclusive abilities like Object Shredder or Drop Roller get more of a chance to shine. So with that, let's fill out these bottom few tiers. Starting with should become a main exclusive. I have two candidates here. The first one is Ink Resistance, and it might be pretty easy to guess what I'm going with here, but it's Splatoon 1 Ink Resistance. For those who don't know, Ink Resistance used to be a lot stronger, but it was a main exclusive shoe ability. Now that Stealth Jump is no longer an ability to get in the way, I feel like Ink Res would actually be really appealing if it was that strong. Right now, people just use one sub of Ink Resistance on pretty much every single gear, which I feel like is a little bit lame. You could make the player's default Ink Res a little bit larger if that turns out to be a problem, but I think Ink Res as a whole would be a lot more interesting if it was almost as powerful as Tacticooler's Ink Resistance, but it was a main exclusive slot. And personally, I want to see more decision making between main exclusive abilities and competition there. I'm not sure what exclusive you would put it on. You could keep it as a shoe, but it might work better somewhere else, but I do think it should be reverted back to that. The next ability I want to become a main exclusive is Special Power-Up. Frankly, I almost debated doing this with Charge Up as well, but I feel like it doesn't fit as well. Special Power-Up on most specials tends to either be something you don't use at all, or you have to stack a lot of on it. And personally, I think that's just a little bit boring. At the same time, I feel like balancing Special Power-Up is really difficult, and it doesn't tend to get the spotlight it needs to. So to me, I think this makes it much easier. Just have Special Power-Up be one relatively strong effect, and you could probably get a lot more creative with how you do the changes. For example, since it's not stackable, you could have it add entirely new effects to specials rather than just incremental changes. After that, let's skip to abilities that shouldn't return, starting with Ability Doubler. This is literally just here for Splatfest tees, and I've already talked about that I feel like Splatfest tees should just be overshirts that go over your normal gear. Therefore, they won't need a gear ability, therefore, we don't need this. Second off is Respawn Punisher, possibly the most hated ability in the entire game, and honestly, for good reason. All it does is make everyone play the game less and incentivize incentivize more defensive gameplay. I understand this being implemented in Splatoon 2 because quick respawn was broken in Splatoon 1, but now that quick respawn has been a balanced ability for like 7 to 8 years now, I think we're good to get rid of this one. The third one on this list is gonna be Tenacity. I'm sorry, Tenacity fans, but now that it's gotten significantly buffed and it still feels horrible, I just don't see it. Maybe you could rework it into an entirely different ability if you really wanted to, but that's outside of the scope of this video. I think a good version of Tenacity would just enable defensive weapons to be special spammers, and as I've talked about with Respawn Punisher, I think things that incentivize defensive, slow gameplay just don't really fit Splatoon. In other words, I think it's clear from 3 games of not working that Tenacity doesn't really have a place in this game. Finally is a Splatoon 1 exclusive ability, Recon. Now, Recon is a really cool ability, and I think before I even was open to it coming back, but thinking about it a lot for this video, I don't think it would work. For those who don't know, Recon allowed you to see where all of the opponents were if you were standing or had just recently left your spawn region, including at the end of the game being buffed to allow you to see specific main weapons, which is pretty cool. However, I think the core function of the ability just doesn't work, because again, you have to stand or have recently left your spawn barrier. This could either lead to some really annoying things, like using tactical or quick super jump to super jump back to spawn, recon comm locations, and jump backs, something that you would basically have to be in a voice call to use, or more than likely, it would cause the average player to stay in their spawn way too long. In a fast-paced game like Splatoon, staying in your spawn region is a bit of a problem. I think there's a chance the concept could work, but ultimately, I kind of understand why it was scrapped. Next up, should come back only if changed. Number 1 over here is Thermal Ink. If Thermal Ink isn't going to work with AoE weapons like Tri-Stringer, Machine, or Blaster indirects, or if the ability gets more functionality to work up close, so it could be better for weapons like Tri-Slosher or really any mid-range AoE weapon that would still benefit from a location effect up close, then why bring it back? Pretty much any weapon that wants Thermal Ink does not work with Thermal Ink properly because of these 2 limitations. If we're not going to change that, then just don't bother. Next up is Drop Roller. Honestly, this mostly is just, will the stealth jump change happen? If stealth jump is just a normal ability again, then unless you're going to add a bunch more recall specials, then don't bother. It's basically an inferior version. I do think Drop Roller is more fun and would be balanced very well with stealth jump being a default effect, but as it stands right now, it's really only useful for occasional Zipcaster and Inkjet weapons, and even then, not even most of them. And second to last, let's get this MPU ability down that I'm sure a lot of people have been staring at in horror. And yeah, I think it should come back if it's changed, and the change should be pretty obvious. Please just get rid of the damage up. It should not do damage up at all. I think any of the other abilities could be balanced, and I think having a way to tweak a weapon's stats that's dependent on how much of an ability you're running is a good way to add layers to the game in terms of the dev's ability to balance it. That is a problem on some weapons that don't really have a whole lot you can do about them. MPU is a good idea that was executed poorly. If they do it right, I'm down. If they're gonna put some insane effect that breaks the game again, please just don't bother. And lastly is another Splatoon 1 exclusive ability, and that's Bomb Sniffer. So Bomb Sniffer in Splatoon 1 was pretty self-explanatory. You could see where bombs were. At the end of the game, it also gave you a 20% reduction to damage from them, something that I don't think they can do because of bomb defense. So would a literally weaker Bomb Sniffer work? Well, to me, yes, if it's changed a little bit. Obviously, at higher levels of play, I don't think it's going to be that common, but I think for newer players, it is a really, really helpful ability. One that I would like to see, and I think it's kind of cool. You could also enhance it if you really wanted to by giving it some new utility. For example, what if you could see enemy ink mines on the map? Something like that. I think there's enough routes to make it more interesting. And with that being said, that's my complete abilities list. I think that most of them can come back, but I'd like to see a little more tweaks than last time. I'd also like to add one more thing as an idea. A lot of people have requested pants to be a much more customizable item, and I'd love to see that in a normal gear shop. Another thing I've said I liked in this video is main exclusive abilities and the dilemma between running them. But if we have a lot of them and add more of them, that might be a bit tricky. In my opinion, I'd like to see the gear system changed from 3 mains and 9 subs to 4 mains and 8 subs. You might have to tweak the numbers a little bit, but I feel like that'd be a lot easier to fill out gear, it would allow pants to be an option people could pick, and at the same time, you could have more main exclusive abilities while still keeping an interesting layer of decision making. I know that's a little bit different than the video's topic, but I feel this was the best place to mention it. So that's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and honestly, I might do a video on new abilities that could come to Splatoon 4. So if you have any ideas you want to see covered, let me know, and maybe I'll talk about them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.